And I'm live, and tonight it is special broadcast because Ruben Amorim is gone. And so straight away, we're going to start with this.
To be the manager of Manchester United, to be the coach.
And the answer to the and then was you didn't even last 18 hours. You were out the door the next morning, and the club had a meeting before midnight to nail the coffin shut. So this special broadcast, I've seen a lot of mixed feeling and emotions and, well, a lot of bullshit comments from the media. Obviously backing the board for the reason to get rid of the manager. But I don't think he's done as bad a job as we make out for what he was given. We are 14 months in. It was the beginning of November last year he signed. We are now in January, and the writing's been on the wall for the last couple of weeks, but so have conversations been happening behind the scenes. The manager's demeanour had changed in the press conferences. He seemed very sort of head down, sort of answering the questions, just going through the motions. So I think he was given a deadline to more or less be in top four. And, that's all he can do. Evening, Tom. Nice for you to join me. So yes, so we will start right at the very beginning. And the beginning isn't what everyone's thinking. It was not yesterday's press conference. I would have started more in the pressure. There was questions he dodged in the pressure. There was a shot towards the board already in that. I think that started the conversations. MUTV actually cut part of the press conference out, and it wasn't even in the transcript for the comments that went live on most channels regarding what the manager had said. And if Man United were already taking bits out, that means you're preparing a statement. You're looking at alternatives, damage control, call it what you want. Okay. But that's where it started. I can't remember the exact words, but it was based around what everyone was running with as a story. But if you watch the press conference on MUTV, that part of the story was not in there. And for some reason, it's just slipped straight out of my head when I've gone live. Probably should have written it down. But move on to the game. Did we really do that bad against an informed Leeds striker who had 6 goals in 6 games? We stopped him from scoring. Liverpool couldn't beat them. They're on their way back. Liverpool actually failed to beat them in 2 games. So we are only 3 points behind Liverpool. Joint on points with Chelsea. And for me, the manager may not look great on win percentage, but I think he was like less than 20% in losses over the games. Just a lot of them were draws. That seemed to be acceptable under Ten Hag, so I don't really understand why it's not acceptable under Ruben Amorim. Because if you actually look at the win ratio, yes, that's like ridiculously low, but the actual games played and wins and draws, it was 24 wins, 18 draws, 21 losses. Those 18 draws is what was hurting us. And let's be fair, we watched Man United throw some of those games away. Ruben Amorim put players on to win, didn't happen. So he changed his philosophy, in my eyes, as a coach, to damage reputation and just sort of stop conceding goals. It didn't work. Why didn't it work? Because we have no midfielders. Fact. Why do we have no midfielders? Well, interestingly, a statement's come out in certain news outlets that Ruben Amorim prioritised 3 attacking players and a goalkeeper over signing a midfielder, which I find very, very hard to believe because no matter what manager we bring in, they all know that Casemiro was ageing and they would have been looking for a replacement just purely for that. Whether you're playing 4-3-3, 4-4-2, 4-5-1, whatever the formation, Casemiro was a problem, and actually seemed like the manager got the best out of him, got him fit. He was playing for the manager, probably being our best player on the pitch for most of the games. You don't have to agree. It's just how I see it. So yes, although they're pushing a win ratio of only 38%, the lowest in all Premier League for Manchester United, out of 63 games, he only lost 21. So those draws are what hurt us more than anything, because we were creating chances, but we weren't scoring. Why were we not scoring? We didn't get Gyökeres, in my opinion. I know he's not scoring for Arsenal, but that's the manager, the player the manager wanted. We got Sesko. Sesko has had 25 chances, scored 2 goals this season alone. And Rasmus Højlund's stats. But it's okay. He's linking up the play. The manager's going to say that because he wants to keep his confidence up. So it'll be interesting now going forwards in a predicted 4-3-3, whether Sesko or Xerxes plays up front under a different manager. The next thing that happened, obviously we all heard the quotes. I've just played what I thought was the final nail in the coffin when you're saying you will see your contract out for 18 months and pretty much imply you're going to walk away. If there's a way to get yourself sacked, taking a shot at the director of football, taking a shot at the scouting department is probably the right way to do it. But if you're led to believe some of the reports this morning, I think the news broke about 9 minutes past 10. And by 11 o'clock, there were stories coming out that the meeting was had the night before. So straight after the press conference, get everyone back. They've gone into a meeting. And funny enough, it's been pointed out on other channels. I will give Stephen Howson the credit for this because it's the first one I saw, where apparently the Google search for the interview shows it loaded 9 hours ago, which was 11/12 o'clock that they would have been uploading it onto the website, because that's how the document share works. So if that's true, he nailed his coffin. He may have even known he was walking away or very much under pressure, because one of the things he said in his pressure was, you have been fed specific information. So in other words, I'm going to give you a dog. You can be the dog. I'll give you a bone and let's see where you go with it. So were they implying that he's under pressure if he doesn't win? The questions were very much the same. He dodged them. It was as if he had a tip off, and he knew what to come back with and what he was going to say. And this 18 months, I am the manager, was obviously how it's first 2 things that came out. I'm the manager, not the coach. I've got to be honest. Credit to the PR part of Manchester United, who fired shots back in the statement. And in big capital letters, Manchester United have got rid of the head coach straight away after he's implied he was the manager. So they've made it very clear that he was a coach, not a manager. Doesn't mean that was made clear to him. If anyone knows anything about business, people tell you what you want to hear to get you to sign a contract. So he may have been a strong manager in his eyes, but you can only be as strong as the tools you were given. Let's go over the timeline. Ruben Amorim comes in. I'm going to leave this up why I go over this timeline, because actually that's the point I'm just about to try and make. Ineos come in. They fight for what felt like 6 months to get Ashworth in. Really good director of football, very much data-driven, can find you a needle in a haystack using this data. What formation do you want? It was made clear that he did not want Ruben Amorim. That was the reason we got rid of him. They had a falling out come the summer. So that's the board backing the manager over someone we paid Newcastle a rumoured 5 to 10 million to get him out of his contract. So we wasted 10 million there. So, if you've got pen and paper, write these amounts down, because they've add up to pretty much 1 or 2 players. So we paid 10 million to get him. We paid in the region of 30 million to get rid of Ten Hag and bring in the manager, plus severance for the manager, which wasn't as high as most thought. It was around 15 million. So I believe we're at 55 million there. That's one player. And pretty much what we paid for Cunha, right? We get to the summer. We get to the end of the season. Worst season ever. Lose the final. Most of us are like, do you know what? It hasn't worked. 6 months. We're in 15th. That's a sackable offence on its own for any manager. But we made the European final. The players seem to turn up in Europe but not turn up in the league. Benefit of the doubt. So losing the final, 15th in the league, definite sackable offence. No, we're going to back the manager. Right, okay. We go out into the transfer window. We sign Cunha. We sign Burmo. Then all of a sudden we're cut off. The signing stopped, and we were linked for 3 months, June, July, August, I think roughly, when we signed Sesko. So he didn't get pre-season with us, but he was training with RB. And anyone thinks that means that he was training hard. Does it? Heck, it just means he came in every day and went to training and just done general fitness, jogging, things like that. No intensity. So we get Sesko in. Some people might say it was third or fourth choice striker, because I believe Gyökeres number 1, Ollie Watkins number 2, and then we could have argued over other strikers coming in, but we signed Sesko because Arsenal got Gyökeres, and it just felt like a tit for tat. Oh, they wanted Sesko, we're signing him because they've taken our signing. That's how I saw it. Then we wait, and we finally get Lamens in. So that's 4 players. 4 players in almost 4 months of a transfer window. And let's be honest, we all knew we needed that midfielder. Some people can say, I'd rather have got us 110 because we had Bruno, a midfielder in, and maybe a specified left wing back or a right wing back. Didn't materialise. We then go into pre-season, listening to Ruben Amorim talking about his system, how it's very specialised, how he needs certain players to do certain jobs. Ahmad comes in right wing back. I'm seeing lots of people saying how he shoehorned players into positions. A good player can play in any position. If they're a midfielder, they can play left wing, right wing, centre midfield. They just might not be good enough, but they understand what the role is to be done. Same as a 10. A 10 can play up front and he can play in midfield. A striker, believe it or not, he can play up front and he probably make not a bad centre back, because we have a centre back that doesn't make a bad striker in Harry Maguire, because you understand how people move. So we've done all that. We've got our signings in, and bringing Lamens, it felt like straight away the defence was starting to click. And then injuries started happening, didn't they? Harry went first against Everton. Well, actually, he went first before that. I think it was about 2 games before he was out injured. He came back for 2 games, and now he's been out injured ever since. Harry Maguire is pinnacle to Manchester United's defence, because although he is, an absolute lorry, turning circle of a globe, but it's what he brings with his mouth. He doesn't shut up. He talks all game, same as Leacher. Harry Maguire currently, as it stands, this is 7 o'clock, is the only Manchester United player to wish the manager good luck. Now, if you want a sign that these players are so into their social media, how comes you can have all these players put out pictures of them training and things like that, but they can't even just do what is general good manners and wish the manager good luck, whether you liked him or not? It's just good manners, and it's good for your media. Because if you don't put something, now you look like you've got a problem with the manager. And to our fan base, we've had lots of problems with managers and players. So is this a form of player powers 1? I don't think so. I feel that the players turned up. I think they ran as hard as they could, but they're not physically fit enough for the Premier League. I think we have one of the most unfit sides in the Premier League and have done for the last few seasons. What else have we got? We got the only other player, or should I say ex-player, so far that, according to, using your chat GPTs, anyone trying to track down the post, I'm not going to go through every player I can think of. The only other ex-player was Garnacho. Surprise, he liked to post criticising the manager in Sky Sports or someone like that. But it's, no real surprise, is it? So I don't like that. I think that's wrong, and I think that's a problem with our club. It's about standards. Again, I don't want to sound like Roy Keane, who, funny enough, I was talking to someone on TikTok saying, we got interim manager coming in. I'll take an interim pair for just one day of Wayne Rooney and Roy Keane, and then we'll really get the truth out of what's going on behind the scenes. Put those two in there with our players, all hell would break loose, wouldn't it? The club wouldn't like it, but as a fan base, we'd be absolutely buzzing because we'd know the truth at last. But it does look like Fletcher's going to step up from the 18s and take over. So straight away, we will be playing a form of 4-3-3. It's more like a 4-2-3-1 at times if we play like the 18s, but I doubt we will. Yeah, I like that. Martin O'Neill and Roy and Rooney for the rest of the season. Why not? Wayne Rooney is attacking coach. I don't think you can. Generally, the old players could teach any of these new players what to do. It's a different kind of movement. It's a different kind of game. One thing I will say, I watched the Leeds game and I was watching the warm up and the coaches, and I tell you what, whether you want Amarin in or Amarin out, I wanted the coaches out from that second because some of them can barely kick a ball. Someone who's 20 stone plus trying to tell players how to run harder and things like that, it's sending the wrong message. And it's not about fat shaming or anything like that before anyone comes back, but it is about professionalism. The guy, as far as we're aware, never played professional football and was just a coach under Ruben Amorim. We can only go by those stats. And when you see him trying to pass a ball and it looks awkward for him to pass the ball, he can't criticise. So that means the players know better than him. And then that has a knock on with other coaches. It's been spoken about the goalkeeping coach. The goalkeeping coach is pushing 70 plus. And there was a viral video went around of him warming up with Nana. And my brother is a goalkeeping coach. And we just looked at that video and was like, what the hell is he doing? So there are going to be some really good improvements because straight away, we might actually get some coaches back who know what they are doing. We had Kieran McKenna, steps up, takes the job, and now he's in the running to come back as Man United manager. I don't believe he will. I'd have him right down the bottom of the list. So, we've been going 20 minutes. It's been pretty much, sounds like I've just had a full-on rant. But there's so much problems now because we're now going to have to pay Ruben Amorim off. And I said, keep track of those figures. It's going to cost us an estimated, in pounds, 27 million to pay off everyone. Everyone's leaving. We're not going to keep any of the coaches, nothing. They'll all be gone. Wages, severance pay, and any compensation for termination of contract. The rumour is 27 million. You can say bye-bye to bringing in any players in this window now. Because the reason we are going with an interim manager is to save money. I feel there's a manager we could go straight out and get. That'll be Savvy. Okay? Whether he could turn us into a Barcelona, be another Pep, I don't care. But it would just be the right kind of name to bring in, to bring some positivity back. If he tells me that, Ugarte can't pass the ball properly, I know Ugarte can't pass the ball properly. If he tells me they don't work hard enough, I know they're not working hard enough, because Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets is the greatest midfield, potentially second only to Paul Scholes and Roy Keane. Just saying. Slightly biased opinion, but those three were unbelievable. Wait until January to get rid of him. Oh, waited purposely till Jan, knowing they won't spend. Exactly. See, this is the sort of hidden truth I wanted to try and point out, but is being overshadowed in the media, taking shots at the manager, what he said, and focusing on that. But now they've got a reason not to be able to spend money in January. But we already know that the manager was pissed off that they weren't going to buy players. I've been saying that Conor Gallagher, the loan deal, was the only obvious deal that we might do. We can only make 2 loan deals. So if we go for 2 loans, what we're going to do? Bring in another Feghorst? That's my fear, because really we need to bring in a striker as well as a midfielder right now, because I don't think Sesko and Xerxes can fire us to a Champions League spot. That's my opinion. I used to play up front. They do not get in the box. And Sesko has missed 2 sitters in the last 2 games, 22 shots. Rasmus Højlund currently is a better striker on paper for Manchester United than Sesko in his first season. And he went 16 games without a goal. So think what you want of that. You can come back to me, oh no, he's done this, he's done that. No, paper doesn't lie. 20 plus shots, 2 goals. Rasmus was basically finished the season as a 1 in 2 striker. What's his stats at Napoli currently? I think it's 6 in 13. And out of that, he's also got assists. Sesko is 2 goals. One of them was a tap in and one of them was a decent goal. How many critical chances did he miss? Quite a few. How many assists has he got? 1. And I don't even class it as an assist, because that pass to Mbeumo, and Mbeumo then had to beat the defender, drive into the box and score. How is that an assist when you've got to run with the ball still? That's not an assist. But that could just be my age and opt to have changed things. So we are now screwed. We have 8 players currently unavailable to play. There's a lot of rumours that Bruno might be back for the next game. But I genuinely don't see how. But how does someone come back with a hamstring injury before Harry Maguire, who's been out for 3 months, with no real reason why he's been out? How does Mason Mount pick up a small knock and someone with a hamstring injury comes back before that? So either we are allowing Bruno to tell us he's fit and he's not, which you've got to keep him out. A hamstring, you don't piss around with them. If he comes back and it's still slightly weak, it could be a few strands still not healed properly. A grade 3 could easily become a grade 1, like that. 1 tackle, one shot in anger, anything like that, it could go. So that's where I am with that. I hope Mount's back, and obviously most importantly, we hope Kobe's back. Now that one, I think we can open hand on heart say I wouldn't be surprised if Kobe Mainoo went, I'm fit now, and walked onto the pitch. It is what it is, but I wouldn't be surprised. Evening Bilal, thanks for joining. Football is an ego game. It's a lot of egos. I like Amarin. I liked his ego. I liked his stubbornness, because I am very much in the way of you've got to do step 1 before you can do step 2. So if they can't learn the basics of his formation, we can't move on to rotating formation. I sort of understood from a coaching view of what he was saying. Doesn't mean he was right. That's one thing I will say. Doesn't mean he was right. But where do we go now? The manager is gone. He has taken the money with him in severance. We know Fletcher's coming in. Who would we like? I've got the 2 of you there in the chat. The obvious choice coming in with Fletcher apparently is Michael Carrick. Give me another name. Give me someone you would like to, you think is sensibly to come in alongside Fletcher as a coach at Man United, because we're going to need more than one. We're going to need 3-4 coaches. So I think maybe 2 ex-players come in. I think Michael Carrick is one. I would like to know, Bilal, Tom, who else you think? And then I will let you know mine. No, not as interim manager, as interim coach. So Fletcher's going to manage. Who's he going to bring in alongside him to help him do that? We're not. If those 2 come in alongside Fletcher, that'd be unbelievable. Tom thinks Martin O'Neill, Roy Keane. I would probably wet my pants, but I'm not sure they will let Roy Keane back inside the ground. And Bilal thinks Ruud van Nistelrooy. Interesting. Carrick, yeah. So I think Wayne Rooney. I think Wayne Rooney is a very good shout. He's always spoke highly of Fletcher. He puts Fletcher in the same category as Jason Park and people like that who were so important to the club because whatever was asked of them, they did. I'll take Tom Heaton as goalkeeping coach if our keeping coach went. He can't do any worse. But I think it is massive. It has been confirmed. Whether people want to believe it or not, we have no way of proving it. But I trust the man who broke the news that he will be manager until the summer. Interim until the summer. Which means that we're potentially looking at someone who's in contract, not anyone who is out of contract to replace him. It was David Ornstein broke it about an hour and a half after the news broke that he has been told he is potentially in charge until till the end of the season as an interim manager. Yeah. So I have 3 managers in mind. I'm going to shout them out. Do I think they are likely? No. So that's not a good start. I don't think they're likely, but I think they're the best fit. I think I believe he's out of a job, but even if he is still doing his current job and it's in Saudi, he might as well be out of a job. I want Xavi Hernandez. I've made that clear. I said that a minute ago. I would take him. Don't think that's going to happen, but I'll put it up anyway. Ralph Ragnick's come back. He's got a World Cup to go to. Didn't Austria qualify? But leading on to that, my next 2 managers, neither of them are Gareth Southgate, so we can be happy there. That name does not get mentioned again on this channel. Otherwise, I might have to delete my channel. But I think, first off, Germany. I think we could go for Nagelsmann. I think we could say, do what you need to do in the World Cup. You come to us afterwards. Let us know what you want. If there's any coaches you want to put in place, get them in. Nagelsmann, for me, great shout. A German with great ideas, but won't take any shit. It's the closest thing we could get to Jurgen Klopp. We obviously, you imagine Klopp turned up on United's doorsteps. Oh my God. I think we'd have a full-on, forget the War of the Roses between us and Leeds. What that would bring with us and Liverpool would be hilarious, but it's not going to happen. But the other name, number 3, and I genuinely think there's a high chance we could make this happen, but I don't think United would. But the Chelsea link is huge. We all know that the rat in charge is a Chelsea fan. He's not a United fan. A United fan doesn't hold a Chelsea season ticket. He might hold a Brighton season ticket. He might hold a Bournemouth season ticket. You don't hold a Chelsea season ticket if you're a United fan. End of. But it is not Maresca. It's Tommy T. Tuchel. Go with England, win the World Cup, and come to us after. I think he would be a great fit. I generally think formation-wise, we might even have the players partly there if they want to move forward with the 3-5. He certainly can play that. He can certainly play a 4-3-3. So between Nagelsmann, Xabi, and Tuchel, hey, you've heard it here first. I'm calling it. I think they are the greatest managers that we could bring in the shit show the club is in right now, because they won't care. They will get on and do their job. Call me a manager, call me a coach, call me an absolute dickhead. They will do whatever title they want. They will just come out and do their job. But again, they will want specific players. They're very good coaches, but whoever we bring in knows we're going to need certain specific players. And right now, with what's happened in the media today, we still look like a shit show of a club. It doesn't look like Ineos has changed anything. What have we done different before Ineos come in? Oh, hang on. We sacked Oli. We sacked Mourinho. You know, we sacked a manager on the night of winning an FA Cup, for God's sake. So really, it doesn't matter. The Glazers are still doing the same thing. That's it. Tuchel won't be a puppet. Nagelsmann wouldn't be a puppet, and Xabi wasn't a puppet. That's why he walked away from Barcelona, because of everything going on behind the scenes, and he couldn't do his job, and he didn't want to do a shit job, so he walked away. That's why I feel there would be great fits. It's their mentality and what they would bring us. I just want to bring this back up. Bilal, do you think that's why they were there? They'd been told the manager was getting sacked, so they turned up at the Leeds game going, we could go again. Come on, Albert. Let's have one more go. We can't do any worse. And, you know, we're both 1 foot in a coffin. So that would be hilarious. But yeah, the puppet thing is the main thing about our replacements. This is big. That's why I didn't really want to do this. I had to go through work all day and go, what have I got to do? I've got to get in. I've got to make a video straight away. You know, I've got the Tactical Devils tonight at 9. That's going to be explosive. But I had to get on here and do a video about this. I now am looking at some of the quotes that have been said about the manager. The club's statement and other media reactions calling that the results are the reason the manager was sacked. The results are a reason. They're not the reason. And it's stuff like that coming out. That's media-led journalism, which I won't stand for. You know, the Leeds result. Do you think the Leeds result got us sacked? Most United fans didn't want it, but would walk away with a draw at Ellen Road. What did I say? I will ban you, Bilal. Do not bring Southgate's name up. If he came in, the fan base would riot. It's that simple. But yeah, going back, it's a draw against Leeds at Ellen Road at any point for Man United is a good point, because that crowd was hostile. I wish Old Trafford could be that hostile to every fan. I love watching us when we go to Fenerbahce or Galatasaray, Leeds, Anfield. We need to bring that back to Old Trafford. We need a hostile crowd, but we're so family orientated now. We're just selling to spectators and whoever can turn up. Season ticket holders, we know, have been pushed out. I think those days will only come again in a new stadium, personally. So what will we do if the media is going to push results, and that we have to stand up and say, no, there's a reason the manager called out what he called out. There's a reason Wilcox got specifically called out. There's a reason that the scouting department has not been scouting players. Because before Amorim came in, we've asked the question, what is the scouting department doing? Before Wilcox, the ex-City, coach, came in, he was director of football and wasn't even director of football at Southampton. He stepped into that role for a couple of weeks, and then we bring him into us. We take Darren Fletcher. This is quite ironic. We take Darren Fletcher from the director of football role he moved into, we gave him a different slight title, and I cannot remember exactly what it was. We take him from that role, put him to the under-18s manager, bring in Wilcox, sack the manager, and now he goes into being the manager at Fletcher. That's ridiculous. Because in that theory, Wilcox should have stepped in as manager. Because you demoted him to the 18s just to keep him doing something at the club. And Fletcher, I love you. I love the fact you are United through and through. But that makes no sense. You know, Wilcox should be able to step into the role as an interim, not the under-18s manager, the player we moved out from doing that job, because we haven't progressed as a club. So I don't get it. Now, the scouting network, who haven't been doing their job, according to the manager, well, we shrunk that department. We sacked some of them. We got rid of some of our scouts in the downsizing by Ineos. So another fault on Ineos. What else have Ineos done that they're trying not to let on? They sided with the Glazers so they could get a foot in the door. Ineos as a group are growing in debt over their own personal company. They're now the owner of Ineos, Ratcliffe, has decreased his own personal wealth by over 10 billion. None of this is good, and none of this is great for anyone coming into the club. It's going to go, well, if I come in, am I going to have to manage the same players and do better than 6th place, where we are currently? And we're 6th by bad luck. You can blame the manager, but right now he had 2 over 21s on the bench. Everyone else was 21 or younger in our last match. So that's not good. Fabregas, do you think he'd bring some pizza for Ferguson as an offering if he came in? No, I don't. I think Fabregas needs to do more. He's at Como, isn't he? Was he at Como? Is he still there? I can't remember. Fabregas, it's a name. And I know that's why I'm saying bring in Savvy, and he hasn't really done anything. But who are you picking in an all-time 11 in midfield? If you wanted a Spanish player, Savvy and Iniesta, you're not bringing Fabregas. So again, maybe that's just me. Okay? Sorry. As a manager, well, he's doing what he wants. He's trying. I'll tell you someone that I've given full credit to as a manager that no one speaks about and wants to get into the English game, but he's been doing the rounds, and that is Robbie Fowler. I had no idea how much and what clubs and things that he's tried, and he'd love to come work in the Premier League, but it's Robbie Fowler, isn't it? We all know the celebration where he got down on all fours, tainted. As a manager in general, I think Fabregas he's learning, and he's doing small steps, and he's doing the right thing. I think it was a big gamble to go to Como. I think that he would have done better in starting his coaching in La Liga 2, maybe somewhere down there with a relegated side. I think that would have. He took the gamble, and I hope it pays off for him. He's certainly an intelligent enough player to make an intelligent enough coach. But can he make the big calls when there's hundreds of millions involved? So, as a shout, as a manager, he's off to a good start. Whereas you could say Wayne Rooney's off to a bad start, and maybe he needs to come in as an assistant manager or coach and learn the role that way. I think Wayne Rooney would make a great assistant manager, and just sat there next to, say, a Steve McLaren, next to a Sam Allardyce. Can you imagine Sam Allardyce and Wayne Rooney on the bench? I'd be unreal. It might be a lot of bad betting syndicates going, but it would definitely be a weird one. No. And do you know what? Really, as for appointments, this is the biggest thing. I don't trust Ineos hiring managers. What do you trust Ineos to do? What have they proven to us they can go and do? I thought we were up for something different when we had Cunha on the bang, day one. Cunha, you're in. I thought, oh, do you know what? They're moving smart. They're moving quick. But they fooled us. Dragged Mbumo on. Dragged on everything else. But there is nothing that I think Ineos can do for us right now. It would be hard. It would be very hard, I think, for anyone, even with a full takeover, for turn Man United around this season alone. So the fact that Ineos can't even buy out the Glazers, if I think it's hard for, say, for instance, say, the name, Sheikh Jassim. If he went, here's 10 billion, right, get out, I'll take over. And he does everything. Forget the ground, forget everything like that. We are now on the 5th of January. Transfer window is open. We're 5 days in. Semenyo's still a deal on the table. It obviously wasn't a done deal because he didn't play for City at the weekend. You know, the only player that turned out for a new club, ironically, number 11, Johnson. You might have want to looked into that, Crystal Palace. That was not a clever move. He's the only one to go. So this whole, it's open, it's a done deal, he's gone to City. Let's see if United want to go and shut the fans up. That's my hope. They go out, they sign Belieber, and they sign someone else just to try and keep the fans happy, get them back on side, because they've sacked the manager. I don't believe it will happen, but I feel that they're going to try something. So when you say I don't trust Ineos, that's why I don't trust them. I think we know that we can't necessarily just bring anyone in. You know, we may be Manchester United in name, but we don't have that pool right now. And if we did, then some of those people might be doing it for the wrong reasons. I'd rather we took our time. I don't think the director of football is the right person to find the right manager. So I am a little bit worried in that respect. But it is what it is. Some of the other things which I've seen. Jamie O'Hara on Sky Sports, not TalkSport for once. Good riddance. He ain't good enough to be Man United manager. Simple as that. And in fact, United were not good enough since he's been in charge, and their form deteriorated under him. It deteriorated under him, but yet we moved up the league. So apparently that's just luck. Rio suggests Amorim's demeanour had changed over recent weeks, and he said he sensed a coldness about him before the sack, implying things had strained initially. I think you've only got to watch the press conferences to notice the shoulders down, the head down, looking down at the table. He wasn't having a laugh. He wasn't having a joke. But he was also fed up of being asked questions about Kobe Mainoo and transfers and whether Xerxes was going to stay. It was the same thing every press conference over Christmas. Ruben Amorim will bring the glory days again. Yeah, that song did not age well. But I generally think under different financial backing, he might have stood a chance. Can you imagine being Ruben Amorim and seeing Liverpool 3 points ahead of you, spending $500 million in the summer and getting worse? Can you imagine Chelsea sacking their manager who had like 40, 50 players to choose from? They basically have 2 starting 11s, one for cup matches and one for league matches. And yet he's there with 8 players missing, fielding a bench full of like teenagers, and he's having to call out Wilcox and that because he doesn't think he's going to get any signings. That does not breed any hope for Glasner. If we were to bring him in, it doesn't breed any hope for any manager to come in right now and say, "Oh yeah, if I take the United job, I can turn them around." We might be at the FA Cup. We might drop places now in the league. It'll only take 4 or 5. We're 3 points off 4th, and we're 3 points off 12th. That's the Premier League we play in these days. It takes nothing to go either way. So, yeah, I'm just having a quick look, guys, at the suspected front runners currently. Top 3, Glasner, Enzo Maresca, who I wouldn't rule out. I would actually say he's probably number 1 choice if Ratcliffe wants because he's ex-Chelsea, and I think he'd love to bring in something else to do with Chelsea. And obviously, Darren Fletcher to keep the job, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer style, if he has a good run, if he can get the spirits up. So, because the main thing is to remember these players, and some of these players might be playing for a new contract, in different ways. As in, Casemiro needs a new contract, Harry Maguire needs a new contract, Bruno's 31, and if he wants to stay at the club and not be pushed out the door, for big money, hopefully to Saudi, then he'll need to step up. He'll be put back in the 10. It's going to be very interesting. Other names, Xavi, Southgate. Oh, God, fucking that name. Just say it. It's horrible. McKenna. The weirdest one, sitting with the best record in the league. Unai Emery leaves Villa to come to us. It's just a joke. Marco Silva, Iriola, Laurent Blanc is the outside favourite, which is just mental. So, yeah, any of them jump out to you, let me know. But for me, I'm more concerned that he'll just go Maresca and we'll do a swap with Chelsea. Because he doesn't want to be it either. He's called out the board, so I don't think he's a good fit. I just think that Chelsea connection is Ratcliffe will rub his hands for. That's why between Maresca and Tuchel, I think that's what he's looking at, and his best mate, Gareth. So what he'll be looking at and what we would look at as fans is always going to be very, very different. But now I think we can stop talking about the manager because, let's be fair, until someone gets a little bit more inside information, and we are trying. I think maybe we need to look at the Burnley, what we expecting. We're expecting a 4-3-3. If I went to you, every player is available. I think our back 4 goalkeeper pick themselves. I think, you go Shaw, Martinez, De Ligt, and then a right back. And for me, it's Mazraoui over Dalot. So that's my back 4. But then if we're going 3 in midfield, I only see 2 combinations of 4 players. 4-4. I don't see that under the interim manager, but maybe going forward that could be a thing. But my midfield, you're going to have Casemiro hold, and then you're going to have a combination to play alongside Casemiro. It is either going to be a double pivot, and then we bring in Ugarte, and then we play Bruno back in the 10 behind the front 3, or we play a single pivot in Casemiro, and this is the one the fans are going to want, Mainu and Bruno in the double 10 behind the front 3. We pretty much play a front 5, but we all know by doing that, Casemiro is exposed, and that means we do need that loan for Gallagher if we were to do this. So I would like to say it's Casemiro, Mainu, Bruno, but up front we're going to lose one of our fan favourites. It's a fact. Because you could take Bruno out and say play Ahmad, but he can't invert into the middle. He just hugs the touchline all the time. He's a winger through and through. So I believe Ahmad's the guy who will end up sitting on the bench. And is that fair? Not really. But you're going to play Cunha, Sesko, and Burmo because they're your 3 signings. The board are going to say, we only brought them, they play. And Sesko dovetails with Xerxes. Maybe Cunha dovetails with Mount. And obviously then Ahmad will get his chance with Burmo, swapping that way. But that means Dorgu's out the team. Dallow's out the team. Ugarte's out the team. some of these players that have been playing regularly under one manager might not even get a look in a new formation if we go 4-3-3. If we go 4-4-2, we need to buy a left-sided player. We only have one, so we could bring Mazraoui back, play him left back, and play. Could work? That could work. We could play Cunha in the same way, but it's just Cunha seems to play the left side 10 probably the best. What was I going to say? I've just seen that. Generally, off the top of my head, I didn't think about dropping Sesko, but I can't see it. You know, that's an option for us as fans, but I don't see that as an option of saying we spent 70 million on a striker after spending, you know, the club spent 70 million on Rasmus. I can't see them dropping him. I think he has to play because you're looking at 200 plus million pounds worth of talent that only came in 6 months ago. If we were to play a 4-4-2, you could play Leacher left back or Mazraoui left back, and push Shaw forward to a left wing. I don't think it's a smart idea. We could probably play Mazraoui as a left winger. We could definitely play Ahmad over on the left wing, but he doesn't like it. He doesn't look like it's his normal position. A bit like Dorgu on the left. You know, I think Ahmad would perform exactly the same way. So there are left-footed players we could play out there, but they won't play well on the left. Midfield, well, it'll still be Bruno Casemiro, and right-sided of a midfield 4, if we were playing a 4-4, would be, you know, probably for me, Dorgu, because that's more of his position. Or it could be an Ahmad. You know, Ahmad as a right winger seems the most logical choice. So I think the club would ask for Ahmad to play there under whoever it is as manager. And then obviously up front, you've got Sesko, Cunha, or Mbumo. So playing a 4-4, we would lose over, you know, one out of our 3 new attackers because they wouldn't fit into a midfield 4 unless you played Mbumo as a right wing, which he could also do. But then you're losing Dorgu and Ahmad. It's a shit show, lads. It's a shit show. So it's going to make it very hard for anyone to pick a new formation, train it, although they will have time on the training pitch, not till after January. We go again. We've got midweek, weekend, Sunday, Brighton, isn't it? Midweek again. No, sorry, we have a full week, but then the next 2 games are Arsenal and City, or City and Arsenal that way around. But and then we're at the end of the month. So whatever we practice, it's going to be damage, like batten down the hatches because we've got City and Arsenal to come. While we have no manager and potentially no new signings and no players. So it's dangerous times. I think that I will leave it there. You know, we could go on about players where they could play for a long time. Because right now, we are probably as unbalanced as a squad as we could be. The one thing I will leave as my final thought, and I put this out to anyone that watches this video and they get to this point. Yes, Darren Fletcher is coming in. Yes, Darren Fletcher is a United legend. In my eyes, he is anyway. His sons were picked before he was given anything. If he chooses to bring his sons on that pitch, it is not favouritism. It is a lack of players currently available. They have played, you know, one of them has stepped on the pitch 3 times now. That's more from Freights. That's more than his brother. And we don't have players. We do not need to follow any media bias, any other channels where they start saying it's biased, manager's biased, picking his sons. And we just need to back everything as loud as we can. Because at the end of the day, there's only one thing we want. And we want the fan base to be united. And we want Manchester United back in that top 4, top 5, top 6. I do not give a shit as long as we are in Europe. And we all should think that way. Get our money back from Adidas. Get more sponsorship money in on our training kits. Hey, and push forward. Ineos are crap. Glazers are a disgrace. But us as fans, that's all this club has left. And we need to remember that and keep pushing forwards. So until next time, guys, thanks you for watching this special broadcast. And I will see you all later. Thank you very much.